Hello, everybody, and welcome to Parks Bros. It is Drew here, and I finally wanted to make a prediction for Six Flags Magic Mountain's new coaster and new area next year in 2019. So before I started off, there are a couple things that I gotta check off the list. We know a lot from the past couple days. We've been asking around to as many employees and as many people as we can that know about what's going on with the project, and we found out a lot of stuff. So let's start this list with one thing. We know it's not going to be a T-Rex. And I'm sorry for everyone that was hoping that was happening. It is not. We have been straight up told by multiple sources that it's just not happening. So honestly, we can hope for a T-Rex in 2021 for the 50th anniversary, hopefully a Giga. That would be amazing, but I don't know if we should start that rumor train yet. But here's some more stuff we know. We know the coaster is going to be a double launch racing coaster. And what I mean by that is that it is going to be a racing coaster or two different racing coasters that will launch against each other. Now, whether it has more than one launch on each track, I couldn't tell you. That is not known as of yet, but they will definitely be racing it against each other because we know one world record this coaster is going to have. It's very tacky, but fastest acceleration with two dueling trains. And what that means is that it's just going to be the fastest launches right next to each other that are racing each other. So not really anything record-breaking for this coaster besides that. And now another point that's going to be kind of scary to a lot of the people that are probably going to watch this video, and that is the fact that this coaster is more family-oriented than a lot of the coasters at Magic Mountain. Now, whether I could tell you it is a family coaster straight up, or is a little more thrilling than a family coaster, I could not tell you. But it is not going to be at the caliber of something like Tatsu or Multi-Loopers or anything like that. So it is definitely going to be more of a family-style attraction as far as we know. Now, the final thing we know is that the new area is going to be called Adrenaline Alley, along with the coaster being called West Coast Racers. And that's not really a surprise. That's been something we've all been saying for the past couple months once those trademarks came out. So that's no surprise for that. Now, looking at all these check marks, there's really only a couple choices. It won't be a Raptor. It won't be a T-Rex. It won't be something extreme, so no launched S&S coasters like the pneumatic or air launch coasters that we've seen in China. That's not happening. And also a launched Vekoma-like formula at Energylandia is not happening as well. So it really has cut our options down to a good 2, maybe 3 at most. But I'm just going to stick with 2 for this video because I really think there's only 2 options now. So let's start off talking about what I think this new area and coaster could be like with my first guess. Now, this is honestly looking like the least likely of the 2 possibilities right now, but I do think it would be pretty cool, honestly, personally. I know a lot of you would probably not be the biggest fan, judging by all of your comments, but the coaster would end up being a steeplechase, a launched steeplechase that would go around the area, and the entire area being themed to a early 1900s boardwalk and carnival. So a more of a vintage theme, something that we really haven't seen at a Six Flags park in a very long time, at least well done that I know of. So it'd be very interesting to see that, especially with new boardwalk games and Apocalypse being rethemed to maybe more of like a Cyclone or a Comet type of wooden coaster, kind of more that classic wooden coaster that you would see at a lot of boardwalks today. And the coaster would be more of a homage to the original steeplechase coasters that were at Coney Island. And they raced with multiple lanes and were a big crowd pleaser back in the day. And they were briefly brought back by Arrow in the mid-1900s, or mid to late 1900s really, with like something like Wacky Soapbox Racers. And they were always crowd pleasers, always bringing the family market, which is another checkbox. Can launch and duel. It's another checkbox. I mean, it really checks all the boxes. Now, if being called Adrenaline Alley, it kind of would definitely take on like an old-timey feel. Now, when I think of Adrenaline Alley, I don't think of early 1900s. I think of more, F1 racing and that type of deal, and maybe drifting, and more of like a back alley to a nightclub or something. Kind of not the best thing to look at with a family attraction, but you could shape it into a carnival or boardwalk type of area, being called Adrenaline Alley, as like the new for the 1900s. This is the most exciting thing that we have, and it brings you adrenaline. If that makes any sense, I hope it does. But roller coasters, especially like a steeplechase, were definitely brand new back then, and it would definitely be called something, extreme, because that's what it was back then, even if it went 5 miles an hour. Like the Switchback Railway was a great example of that. It was thrilling and exciting, but it didn't go over 5 miles an hour. I think it might have gone 6, but 1 mile an hour difference at that slow speed isn't really the biggest change. So that is my first guess for what this could be next year, and it would be a boardwalk / carnival themed in the early 1900s, with Apocalypse being rethemed to an old wooden coaster and a steeplechase being the new coaster. Now let's move on to my second guess. Now this is seeming to be the more likely guess, especially for capacity reasons, but we'll get to that in a second. But Vekoma actually has a family dueling launch coaster that they have released a concept of. Now, I didn't actually find out about this concept until I watched a video from Coaster Labs. I'll link that down below and in the iCard right now. Also, go subscribe to Coaster Labs. He makes really good stuff. But this family coaster model has dueling launches, and you can have a sprawling and dueling layout. And these trains all seat 4 people, which is twice the number of the steeplechase trains, which really adds to capacity. It can apparently run with 960 riders per hour, which honestly is a lot better than a lot of the Six Flags Magic Mountain attractions. Full throttle. I was talking to a ride op, it doesn't even hit 600 riders per hour all out of the time. So that's a pretty big improvement, honestly, on some of the coasters at Magic Mountain, besides, of course, like Twisted Colossus, because they're always running trains as fast as possible, or at least they should be, but that's a topic for another day. But even in the concept, these trains are themed to F1 cars and racing, and they even can race each other, and you can make it really interesting with these layouts. And they kind of fit the spacing just like a steeplechase would, but they fit the spacing for the markers at Magic Mountain. So it's a very interesting concept to look at and see, but I think this is honestly the number one choice of what we're going to get next year. It's pretty interesting to look at, but we know Magic Mountain has both a great relationship with S&S and Vekoma, considering they're both under Sansai now. So either of these models would not surprise me whatsoever, but it would be a very cool family launch coaster, I think. But along with the rest of the area, Apocalypse, I don't know what they would retheme it to. Honestly, if the new coaster is themed to like stock racing or F1 racing or anything like that, I don't know what they retheme Apocalypse to. They could still do like a hot rod type deal, but I really don't know at this point, unless they want to maybe do a mixture of my two guesses and pull it off like it's Long Beach and make it still like the classic coaster, but then they have the race in town for like the Long Beach Grand Prix, and then you could have F1 cars going through it. I know that's really in depth, but hey, it's Southern California, you never know. But definitely a lot more boardwalk games are coming back into that area, because there used to be a couple, and about half of them have been torn down now for sure, and the other half are probably going to be moved very soon. But along with the new Vekoma launch coaster, I could see another family flat, of course, but Adrenaline Alley would be more of a racing type feel. Still could be like the races in town, and they could set up kind of more of a carnival style theming with the buildings across the way, and it really makes me interested to see what's going to happen next year. But honestly, these are my two guesses: 1900s boardwalk with a steeplechase, or a modern racing themed area with a Vekoma family launched coaster. It's really hard to choose between the two. Honestly, I think I would prefer the vintage area because it's so different from everything else in the park. But if they go with the racing themed land, I'm not going to be disappointed. Maybe a little bit because they already have Full Throttle, but I guess that's technically a YOLO themed area, which, yeah, Six Flags. But honestly, I will be happy with whatever they get, no matter how big it is or how small it is. I really just hope it's a fun and decent ride that will bring more money to Magic Mountain so they can buy that Giga in the future. So I hope you liked this video. I know a lot of people are going to be kind of disappointed. I am a little bit too, but I'm just trying to look towards the positives right now, and it really helps me appreciate what Magic Mountain is doing, especially with redoing that entire area itself, because it is one of the worst taken care of areas of the park, at least as far as the past couple years have gone. So definitely let me know what you think it'll be. I'll put a poll in right now, and you can tell me whether you think it'll be vintage or modern racing. And I'm really excited to see what happens on Wednesday for the announcement, and I hope you are too. But make sure to stay tuned, subscribe if you haven't, like the video if you did, dislike it if you didn't. I mean, you tell me. And of course, as always, we'll see you on the next ride.